So, bang, here we go with another cool review. I am the Glitch Trap and this is the Cool Club. I want to go ahead and talk about the Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem film. We're going to review the good, the bad, and the very ugly. So, let's get into it. First off, this movie was released, it came out today, directed by Jeff Rowe, produced by Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, and James Weaver. Now, I'm not sure if Jeff Rowe was a fan of the Ninja Turtles coming up. I'm not even sure if Seth Rogen, Evan, or James was a fan coming up. But these are based on characters based on characters by Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman. You should definitely go back and look at the first comic books that came out between 1984 and 1993. These comic books would set the premise for you to understand what they're going for or what they should be going for. You should also go look at the cartoon, the first cartoon that came out that continued all the way to like 2003. You should look that up before you should look at those before you see this film. But if not, you can look at them after and do the comparison. But you'll understand what I'm talking about if you're coming from my perspective as a person who saw all of the source material and then you see this. You should also go look at the first film, the first live action film. That was one of the best Ninja Turtles properties to ever come out. The first Ninja Turtles, that was some of the best Ninja Turtles media to ever come out, to be on screen. The first film. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the good, the bad, and the very ugly of this film. The good of this film was Ice Cube. Like, Ice Cube definitely is part of the good of the film. Ice Cube plays a menacing villain. Like, we know Ice Cube can be menacing when he wants to be. We saw this from his raps and things like that, from how he can get into that, tap into that type of dark energy. He did that in this movie. Superfly was one of the best things about the film, and actually a lot of the film revolved around him. The story was retconned as far as we all know that Baxter Stockman is usually the one that turns into the fly creature, the fly mutant. But in this, Baxter Stockman was the creator of Superfly and really the motive, like his father figure, and really the motive for why he does what he does and why he hates humans and things like that. Baxter Stockman is more of a misfit character than a nefarious experimental scientist, which is what he is in the original source material. So you have that Superfly, like I said, is a great character in himself. Like, if he would have been part of the canon, you would have, first of all, Baxter Stockman is black in the comic books. Like, he's originally black, so Ice Cube playing the creature is not a far-fetched thing. But I like the way that they made him relentless, and they made him a real villain. They made him he was going to the end. He was gonna follow his plan through to the end, and that's what you need in a villain. Also, part of the good, some of the humor was okay. Some of it, it wasn't great, but some of the humor was okay. And I can also say that the character of April, this was part of the good, but this is like in a neutral, it's good and bad, and I'm gonna get into that. So it kind of cancels itself out as far as the rating. But April was a fun character. She just would have been better suited in another film. Like, you could have took that April character, Puke Girl or whatever they called her, spoiler alert there. You could have took her character and put her into another film, and that would have been a perfect character to stand alone by. But in this film, she's just gonna be hated and not used to her full capacity. So that being said, that pretty much ends the good for me. That does, that ends it. Now, let's get to the bad. This film doesn't take itself seriously. This film has a lot of jokes in it that's built in that actually insults the Ninja Turtles lore and insults the canon that's built in. Like it's like one of those situations that's where you will have the Ninja Turtles or somebody there saying something like they'll make fun of something that's a theme that's in the Ninja Turtles canon, that's a running theme that everyone knows about, and try to crap on it or belittle it in the form of humor. That's the humor that they go for in a lot of instances, and it's not funny. It's not funny. It makes you think and be like, well, where is that? Like, for one thing, for hiding in the shadows, when April comes in and she sees them hiding in the shadows, and they basically bumble it up. Like they basically get found out, and she's saying that it's sus that you're back there talking. Now you're talking in the shadows. Like, well, Ninja Turtles are like, they're usually better at vanishing and doing what they need to do. And if somebody suspected or saw them, they'll pretty much tag them, knock them out or bag them. You know what I'm saying? And they have their ninjutsu methods. That was the thing. Like, it was lacking ninjutsu. They were not concentrated on that. That's another part that segues me into the bad. Part of the bad was the lack of ninjutsu in this film, and I saw that from the trailers. Now, yes, they had combat, they did combat, but the combat was more wild and frantic than ninja. Than it was more wild and frantic than controlled and skilled. Now, I know from looking at this was you could somewhat say that this was like their first mission. Like, we could say that from here, this was their first mission. But this is going to get me into part of the ugly, and that's straying away from that canon. Like, so they basically, this was the Turtles' first mission. So it was like they were basically learning. But you didn't have to you could have still had them be more seasoned and took their craft of ninjutsu more seriously. They always, no matter if they teenagers or not, they always took the craft of ninjutsu seriously. And because that's not built into this storyline, like Master Splinter teaches them ninjutsu from watching old Bruce Lee flicks or old movies. Like, they're really playing games with the lore, And some of those things were huge things that made the Turtles who they were. And like, if you start taking out little pieces, what they don't understand is you ruin it. You may as well just have changed this to being the mutant ninja. You could have just called this movie Mutant Mayhem, tweaked some things of the Turtles to made them lizards, and you could have took a whole new story down. Like, you could have just did that. But you want to use this tried and true name. You want to use this, and I don't like that. We're tired of that. Because we don't need it. Like, we have enough Ninja Turtle stuff, like I said, from the things I already named, that can go down in history as being some of the greatest programming ever made. You're not gonna top that, and you should have made, like, we're looking for another live action film. This here is just another children's film. Like, another cartoon. Like, we don't need another cartoon like the Spider-Verse. We were looking for a live action Ninja Turtles. But okay, we didn't get that. But the lore, to stray from that lore, the built-in lore that you have, and in place of what we got here, is ridiculous. Like I said, Splinter teaching the Turtles ninjutsu from watching old movies. Splinter not being a ninja master, not being from Japan. The Japanese trope, that the Japanese story is just thrown out the window. You don't see the Shredder being the main character here. The first fight or the first mission for the Turtles. You don't see Baxter Stockman turning into the fly monster. Better yet, it's Ice Cube, and he just creates a mutant just mutates a fly and creates that from scratch instead of him being the one that is mutated. That's a big part of the lore. But to take the ninjutsu, the ninja master aspect out of this, that was a big mistake. You get lore now. You have April being a high school student, running around, puking just all of this stuff was something totally different, and you can love it or hate it. But I'm more on the hate side of it. That brings me to the very ugly of the film. Oh yes, the very ugly Splinter. Master Splinter, played by Jackie Chan. Master Splinter, oh my goodness. I think Master Splinter needed a doctor. The way that they made Master Splinter seem, they made Master Splinter seem like he needed help. Like he needed a he needed to be evaluated for Alzheimer's or something like that. That's how they made Master Splinter seem. And that's a total and they tried to make him seem like he was a worrywart as well. That's a total deviation from the canon and his attitude. Go look at the first film, and I'm gonna you can see this. I'm gonna do a comparison video on my channel, and you can see that. I'll upload that after this one. If you look at the first film, Master Splinter, the connection he had with the turtles, they were on board with what Master Splinter was telling them. They were learning from him. They weren't. Yes, Raphael was rejecting his teachings and things like that. One of the turtles was. He was, and the rest of the turtles, they felt the way about being hidden in the sewers, of course. But what they weren't doing is sneaking out, and they weren't bucking like Master Splinter's teachers and making it seem like Master Splinter was some old senile rat with dementia. They weren't doing that. And some of the things they were doing were just downright disrespectful, and they were lying to Master Splinter, manipulating him. That's some things that you don't want to teach children in a children's film, and the Ninja Turtles had more honor than that. But that's one of the things that was just the very ugly, is the concept of Master Splinter. Yeah, sure, at the end, he was able to do some karate and some stuff like that. But the whole time, like, they made him seem like some bumbling idiot. So I didn't like that. I also wasn't a fan of the design of the turtles. Yes, the turtles are part of the ugly for me. I hated. It were 2 turtle designs that I hated. Or actually 3. I hated 3 turtle designs. I hated Raphael. He was fat. They made Raphael fat and pudgy, and look like a softie. I didn't like the design of Michelangelo. Michelangelo was designed, I don't know, like some little soft, I just weak, no muscle mass. None of the turtles packed muscle mass, which is like a huge aesthetic of the mutation. It's just like that's another one of those things that they felt they could just leave out, and it wouldn't matter. That would add some fun to the characters. Don't you understand who this stuff is for? Like young boys and young kids, and even grown men who are into this stuff, they want to see ripped characters. They want to see larger than life characters. They don't want to see mutants who are resembling humans that they can look to their left and look to their right and see. That brings me to another thing about the ugly. The design of all of the mutants besides Superfly. Other than that, the rest of those, y'all did those mutants a disservice. From Wingnut, go back and look at the real Wingnut design. Which one will look cooler? Go back and look at the original Mondo Gecko design. Which one looks cooler than what we saw? Go back and look at Genghis Frog's design, and which one looks cooler and more aesthetically pleasing than that one, or the original, or what Hannibal Buress did. Like, Hannibal Buress was a waste. Like, and Genghis Frog being a little bitty frog, with an axe, that was a stupid design. You know, these are humanoid. See, this is where you got a problem because these are humanoid mutants. All of these mutants are mutated by splicing a animal and a human. So humans are in there, but that whole canon has been retconned, and I think they did the film a disservice by doing that. You just did the film a disservice. So with that being said, I mean the film that pretty much wraps up the good, bad, and ugly. The film itself, like I said, April is part of, before I finished, April's part of the ugly. A good character that had funny points and parts where I could see the character working in any other continuity. She's a good character, but in the wrong film. This is the wrong. You wasted a character because you already have April, as we know, as the redhead Caucasian news reporter. Or that's all we know her as, and we're not gonna deviate from that. Because what you just did here is like this wasn't the character that we were looking for. She could have been great in any other thing, but this film here, this wasn't a long film. This was a running time of 100 minutes. That's a little over an hour and a half. That was enough to get out what they needed to get out of this film, which is basically nothing more than just a simple humor, a simple humorous. It's just like a kid's show. Like this wasn't a deep movie. This wasn't a lot of thought put into this film. I will tell you that. Like, so of course we know the Ninja Turtles is about teenage mutant turtles who are fighting crime, and they're ninjas. Of course, don't forget that. You know, that's what this movie forgot, the ninja aspect. And again, and on another note, they had a scene where they were Raph is throwing a ninja star at a watermelon at Michelangelo's head, and the ninja star ends up going through the watermelon. First of all, it could have went into Michelangelo's head, but it goes through the watermelon, ricochets, and then falls into April's head. She just happened to be wearing a safety helmet. Does that seem like something that you should be teaching children? That's that's the same thing for when kids used to be shooting a bow and arrow and have another kid putting an apple on top of his head. Like, who would do that? Don't do that. You know, kids, don't try that at home, okay? But so with that being said, I give this film a 6 out of 10. Yes, I give Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem a 6 out of 10. You could go see it, you know, if you want. I recommend you just watch the other things of the built-in things that's already there for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The shows, everything I named, the comics, they're a lot better than this. Like, this is a new adaptation. They could have just called this Mutant Mayhem, left the Ninja Turtles out of it. You understand? They could have done that. So again, 6 out of 10 for this film. I would have gave it a 5 if it wasn't for just certain things, like Superfly Ice Cube turned it up and made it, you know, better than it was. It had combat, but it didn't have the ninja. It lacked the ninjutsu and just the basic that basic lore of ninjutsu and being a ninja master, and the thing that really made Ninja Turtles feel like Ninja Turtles. This more feels like a Teen Titans or something like that. So with that being said, this is the Cool Club. I am the Glitch Trap. Bang! I'm gone.